So I got tagged by my good buddy Howler Mouse to do this 50 favorite comic tag video. And I don't think I came up with 50 books. Not for lack of trying, but it was just like, well, if I add this, I have to add this, and then I have to add this, and then okay? But, I mean, it got me thinking about books and collecting and everything else. And there's stuff that I have in my collection that I would be like heartbroken if I lost or whatever. I was digging through some of my boxes and I was like, oh, where'd it go? Where is this? Because like, I'm pretty meticulous with how I store my collection. It's a little over-categorized and curated, I guess would be the word, but this is my baby, so I can be meticulous with it. But I digress. There's stuff that I'm going to show that is either, like I said, I'm emotionally invested in, or it's just great comics, in my opinion. Not all this stuff is going to be for everybody. There's not really a rhyme or reason for some of this stuff. It was just like, hey, yeah, duh, it's this, you know? Okay. And if you guys watch my videos, I'm sure you're going to see some stuff that you're going to expect, but there might be one or two surprises in here. Because I am a huge fan of one particular character I don't talk a lot about on YouTube. So when I do talk about it, or like the video where I showed off my collection, part of my collection, because I didn't even show off all of my collection, it tends to surprise people because it's not something I talk about usually. And no, it's not My Little Pony. Okay, so in no particular order, we're going to start with this. And I couldn't find my issue 1 of this title, which is kind of what I was like, oh, where'd it go? But I have a stack of books over here on my on the end table, and I'm pretty sure it's there, or it's on the stack of books upstairs, because I have recently reread this book, and it still gets me every time. And I've talked about this more than once, but this is issue 2 from We 3. Not particularly expensive. A lot of people didn't like it. I did. To get emotionally invested, or to be drawn in by a comic, for me, I think is a rare thing. There's a lot of stuff that comes out now that just kind of comes off as fluff or shoddy storytelling, you know, or it's just kind of like flash in the pan, you know, that like Mark Millar style of writing. It's cool for 5 minutes, and then in retrospect, it's like, well, it was just all kind of regurgitative of all this other stuff. Okay, cool. Well, you know, John Byrne says there's only one story. It's boy meets girl with a twist. Joseph Campbell says there's 7 different stories. I don't know. So it's all kind of who you ask. But yeah, this is one of my favorites. We 3. Highly recommend it. So comic book is steep. I'll wait for you to get your notebook. Okay, are we ready? Cool. And like I said, no particular order. Next up, Infinity Gauntlet, number 1. Way back in the day, when I was like straight up, this straight Marvel guy, this book blew me away. And you probably, some people out there who are more established collectors are like, well, you clearly didn't read Crisis. Crisis is in this pile too. But this book blew me away. And I've been talking a lot about Infinity Gauntlet with my friends at work that collect comic books or are getting into comic books. This is one of the books that I push on new collectors. Or not push, but recommend or suggest. Next up is Spectacular Spider-Man 134. There's no significance necessarily to this book other than this is the start of what I think is one of the greatest runs in comics. And that's Sal Buscema's stuff in Spectacular Spider-Man. A lot of people are like, well, Todd McFarlane was the Spider-Man artist, or Mark Bagley, you know, or Eric Larson even. I'm sure somebody out there would say that. But for me, it's Sal Buscema. His run on this book is phenomenal. I mean, you know, you have like Peter David Hulk or Jeff Johns, Green Lantern. But Sal Buscema. Highly, highly, highly recommend the Sal Buscema Spectacular Spider-Man. He did the first couple issues, and then he left, and he came back, and he left, and he came back, and he left, and he came back. But he did a really long run. It was over 100 issues, I think, of Spectacular Spider-Man, starting with issue 134. Great stuff. Next up, Old Man Logan. This is Wolverine number 66. You're probably thinking, really? Yeah. This is a great story. I used to be a huge Mark Millar fan, which is part of the reason why I picked this book up. And this book was great. But they're just going to farm this for the next 20 years. They're already doing it. But yeah. Wolverine 66. One of my favorites. Crisis on Infinite Earth, number 1. I had issue 4, I think, 4 or 5. The one with the Anti-Monitor, like, holding all the people. Way back when. I still do, but this series blew me away when I finally got it. I picked up some of these from our good buddy Jimmy C, so I sat down and binge read all of it one night again, and it was great. Great. Excuse me. Marv Wolfman. Great stuff. Martial Law number 1. Now, I got out of comic books for a couple of years when I my first couple of years I was in the Air Force, and this was 12 years ago. I got out of comics. I just didn't have the room or really the money, or, if I had any free time, it was either I was at school or I was just drinking. But I remembered this guy. So I walked into a shop one day and said, hey, looking for some martial law stuff. And the guys went, oh, cool. So this was the book, and I picked up a couple issues that I was missing of martial law. So this was the book that got me back into comics, and I've been back into comics since. I didn't buy this new, and this isn't the issue that I'm talking about, but this is the character that got me back into comics. Because if I wouldn't have been interested in martial law at the time, I never would have walked into the store. I think I picked up some Walking Dead that day. Something else, I can't remember. But yeah, all because of martial law. And martial law is one of my favorites. This is Uncanny X-Men 249. This is some of my favorite X-Men stuff. When they're in the Outback, the Mark Silvestri stuff. This is before Jim Lee and after John Byrne. This is great. Some of my favorite X-Men stuff. I love this cover. A little backstory on this. This was after Fall of the Mutants. A bunch of good guys died. X-Men kind of scattered to the Outback. They're kind of picking up the pieces. They're all depressed. This is great. That was the short and sweet and to the point. And speaking of other people that kind of had epic runs, like art-wise and story-wise, and like you have those people that just click and they just work forever. New Teen Titans number 1. More Marv Wolfman and George Perez. Sorry, I'm like super thirsty. It's like 94 degrees outside. Great stuff. And this started my, this was the first issue of the New Teen Titans that I picked up. And I've kind of been obsessed with them since. So that's cool. X-Men 137. Dark Phoenix Saga. It's Dark Phoenix. This is great. This is my copy of X-Men number 2. This is my oldest. Oh, man. See, look, I do own a couple Mylar. This is my oldest X-Men comic. This is one of my prized gems in my collection. I love this book. Shade the Changing Man number 1. Oh, man. Peter Milligan. Chris Piccola did a large portion of the art on this story. I've done videos about Shade, but this is one of those things. This was a story that resonated with me. I have a full run of Shade. You can pick these books up stupid cheap. I saw some today, actually, in the dollar bin at the crappy shop up the street. I love this title. This is a great book. Another great book that I have the complete run of. And yeah, this was one of the things I picked up when I went to the shop looking for martial law. Preacher. I walked out of there with a Preacher trade and a Walking Dead trade. It was a good day. Awesome book. Something else I recommend. It's a little pricey now, which is a shame. I think that'll probably keep some people who are interested into getting into it. But you know, the trades are cheap compared to what you're going to drop on even a mid-grade copy of issue number 1 now. I have zero hope that that TV show will be worth a shit. Zero. I'm not even remotely optimistic about it. Not even a little. Actually, the whole thing kind of pissed me off. Almost as much as this pisses me off. This is Sandman number 1. Also another one of my favorite books. This is gorgeous Sam Keith art. Neil Gaiman writing. I mean, it's Sandman. You all know Sandman. I don't know why anybody thought... Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. I'm not optimistic about that either. That's my way of saying that movie's going to suck. Batwoman number 1. Reader 1717 pushed this. Suggested. I'm not going to say pushed. I don't feel pushed. But she recommended this to me. I picked it up and I was blown away. I think this is some of the best comic stuff in probably like the last 10 years. Batwoman. It's a shame what DC ended up doing with this character. It's a shame. They totally had something cool, and they just kind of threw it away for nothing. Up next, Amazing Spider-Man number 15. And I've shown this book off before too. More Mylar. Sorry about the glare. First appearance of my favorite villain, Kraven the Hunter. Super cool. Also, love that book. Tom Ryan just commented on my last video. I have no idea. They probably would have just like, their heads would have exploded. I'm using my phone so I get the notifications. Okay. Hi, Tom. Up next. Yeah, I know. New Mutants 98. It's funny that this book is worth as much as this book is now. Because when this book first came out, nobody gave two shits about Deadpool. And now it's like, ooh, it's Deadpool. He's all over the place. But at the beginning, no. Nobody cared. I remember this book was still on the rack at the shop I was buying comics at the time when like issue 100 came out. Like nobody cared. Nobody cared. It was cool because it was Liefeld. That was the draw. But nobody gave two shits about Deadpool. And now he's just... I don't know. This is Devil's Child. Matt Wagner's Grindel's Devil Child by Diana Schultz and Tim Sell. I've also just shown this off. This is in my short list of best comics ever. Ever. I love this book. I have it, picked it up here. Yeah, I got the hardcover. Yeah, I love this book. I finally made my lady read it. She enjoyed it as well. This is Incredible Hulk 232. I would cry for days if something happened to this comic book. This is one of my favorites. It's my first comic. I love this comic. I might hang this up on my wall because I have another copy that's in better shape than this one. But this is what started it all for me. Incredible Hulk 181, first appearance of this dude. Not really the first appearance because he's in 180, but this is the high dollar book out of the two. I can't really think of an example other than this one where that happened. It was like, I mean, because this is the second appearance of Wolverine, not the first appearance of Wolverine, but it is what it is. Or it's argued that it's not even the second appearance of Wolverine because there's books prior to 180 that had him in it. But okay. We're at like 14 minutes. I'm going to stop this, and then I'm going to record part 2. So yeah, 181. Cool. I'll be right back. Thanks.